There comes a moment in every battle with the narcissist where the shift doesn't arrive with a thunderclap or a shouted goodbye. It comes quietly, almost unnoticed. It's the moment you stop feeding the fire with your own emotional oxygen. That's when the narcissist begins to feel something foreign creeping in, the first trembling shadow of regret. You see, the narcissist doesn't live off love the way most people understand it. The true feast is attention, your validation, your anger, your tears, even your laughter. Any response, no matter how raw or bitter, becomes their fuel. The narcissist doesn't care whether you cry or applaud. What matters is that your heart, your mind, and your soul keep revolving around them. That's the scaffolding holding up their fragile sense of self. But here's the great paradox. The narcissist isn't terrified of rejection. Rejection still means you've turned your gaze their way. What cuts them deeper is indifference. When your world no longer orbits theirs, when they're no longer the center of your emotional weather system, the narcissist faces a truth they can't bear: powerlessness. Think of the years spent caught in that endless dance. The narcissist pushes, you respond. They vanish, you chase. They dangle praise, you soften. They pull away and your heart aches. Every step is designed to keep you entangled in their rhythm. Even conflict becomes a chain. As long as your emotions are tied to their moves, the game stays alive. But then, there's a turning point. Sometimes it comes through heartbreak. Sometimes through exhaustion so deep you've got nothing left to give. Sometimes through a sudden awakening where you finally see the pattern for what it is. And in that moment, you stop explaining. You stop defending. You stop begging for their approval. You stop playing the role that was written for you. That's when the loop collapses. The mirror shatters. You reclaim your life. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to slam the door or hurl accusations. That would still mean you're feeding the cycle. No, the real power is in withdrawing silently, in choosing to live out of your own center again. Your energy no longer runs into the bottomless pit of their ego. You stand in your own light, grounded, whole, no longer an echo of their need. From the narcissist perspective, it's disorienting. They can't always name it, but they feel it. Suddenly the orbit is broken. The fountain they once drew from has gone dry. And instead of the explosion you'd expect, something more haunting seeps in: regret. Why regret? Because the narcissist built their world on the illusion that you'd always be there, that your reactions would never stop. When that illusion crumbles, they are forced to face the unthinkable. They weren't as irreplaceable as they believed. You can live without them. Worse yet, you are already doing it. That's when regret sets in, a gnawing question inside them. Did I miscalculate? Did I lose something more precious than I admitted? But by then, you've often walked far enough into your own freedom that you no longer need their recognition. This is why your quiet withdrawal speaks louder than any farewell. It's not vengeance. It's not punishment. It's the holy act of reclaiming yourself. You no longer rise and fall by their moods. You no longer tremble at their absence. And when they see that their games no longer hook you, that their control no longer bends you, regret becomes their companion. The strongest sermon you'll ever preach to a narcissist isn't wrapped in rage or thunder. It's the silence of soul that has stopped bowing. It's a steady, unshakable reclaiming of your own space. That's the moment the narcissist begins to break. There's another breaking point in the dance with a narcissist, and it comes not with raised voices or slammed doors, but in a quieter, more devastating way. It's the moment they realize the gates to your inner world are closed. Trust is no longer theirs to plunder. Trust is sacred. It's the soul's way of saying, I'll let you in. I'll show you my weakness, my dreams, my fears. I'll take the risk that you'll protect, not exploit, what I've revealed. For most of us, trust is a covenant. But for the narcissist, it's a tool. It's never holy. It's never tender. It's useful only as long as it keeps the power in their hands. The narcissist walks through life, assuming you'll keep handing over that trust no matter how many times it's shattered. Why? Because they see you through the lens of their own hunger. Someone desperate for approval. Someone terrified of being left behind. Someone they think will always crawl back. They count on your compassion to be endless. But even the most compassionate soul has limits. There comes a day when you wake up and realize that trust isn't restored with sweet apologies or hollow promises. Trust must be earned, and they've never paid the price. When that dawn breaks over your heart, you stop feeding them with blind faith, and the narcissist feels it. They may not say out loud, but deep down, they know the current has changed. They pick up on it in the smallest things. The shift in your tone, the way your eyes no longer soften, the way your confessions dry up. The warmth they once lived off is cooled. The door to your soul is no longer swinging wide open. And for the narcissist, that's not just unsettling. It's a wound to their sense of control. Here's what makes this moment sting so deeply. It forces a narcissist to face what they denied all along, that their grip on you was never absolute, that your trust wasn't some endless fountain, that you were never a background character in their drama. You were always a sovereign soul with the power to say enough. Regret begins to haunt them, not because they suddenly discover sacrificial love, but because they see they've overplayed their hand. They thought your trust was theirs to waste. They thought your forgiveness would never run dry. Now they wonder, what would it have taken to guard that trust? Could they have chosen differently? But by the time those questions come, you've already stepped into freedom. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend with roses or speeches. It's rebuilt with consistent honor, steady respect, daily choices to protect what's fragile. And that's the very discipline the narcissist can't sustain, because domination, not devotion, is their addiction. So when you close the door, when you stop handing over your heart like an open ledger, you're not playing games. You're standing in wisdom. You've redrawn the boundary line, not out of bitterness, but out of strength. For the narcissist, that boundary is a riddle they can't solve. They may rage, they may pretend to repent, but inside, they feel the hollow ache of regret. Not because they've lost love in the truest sense, but because they've lost what they crave most, control. And by the time regret takes root in their heart, you've usually outgrown the need for their approval. You're no longer looking to them to define your worth. You've learned to carry your trust within yourself, guarded by the strength they could never give and the freedom they'll never understand. There comes a moment that shakes the very foundation of the narcissist world. It's not when you fight harder or when you match manipulation with defiance. No, the real turning point is quieter, more piercing. It's when they realize with shock and disbelief that the tricks that once kept you bound, the guilt, the flattery, the fear, the subtle strings of approval, no longer hold sway over you. That's when the narcissist begins to break. For years, they rehearsed the same dance with you. They knew how to press the button that made you defend yourself, how to withdraw just enough to make you chase, how to sprinkle praise to soften your heart. Every move was predictable, every response rehearsed. But then something shifts. You no longer react. You've stepped out of the cycle, and the narcissist finds himself standing in unfamiliar territory. Unpredictability. For the narcissist, unpredictability isn't just uncomfortable, it's unbearable. Their entire sense of control rests on knowing they can pull a lever in your heart and watch the gears move exactly as expected. When the levers no longer work, when the gears grind to a halt, it's as if a mirror has shattered in front of them. They can no longer see their power reflected in your reactions. This moment matters because control isn't a game for the narcissist. It's survival. Beneath the swagger, beneath the arrogance, lies a hollow self desperate for validation. When you stop feeding the hunger with your attention, the narcissist has no choice but to face what they've spent a lifetime avoiding, the emptiness inside. And that emptiness terrifies them. For so long they filled it with admiration, with conflict, with conquest. They built their identity on keeping others tangled in their drama. But when you step away, when you refuse to rise and fall with their moods, the stage goes dark. The performance is over. And for the first time, they're left alone with themselves. That's when regret begins to take root. Not the kind of regret that springs from love, but the regret of losing a lifeline. They regret because the fuel is gone. The source of validation is dried up. The game can't continue without a willing player. They look back and wonder if they miscalculated, if they pushed too hard, if they underestimated the strength you would one day discover. The truth is, you didn't escape by fighting harder. You escaped by becoming immune, by stepping outside the story they wrote for you, by anchoring yourself so firmly in your own worth that their words, their tactics, their moods fall flat. That's the revolution. That's the liberation. And when the narcissist finally sees it, when they grasp that the strings they once pulled no longer move you, it doesn't just bruise their ego. It collapses the fragile scaffolding of their identity. They may rage. They may plead. They may even mask themselves in remorse. But beneath it all, they're grappling with a truth they can't rewrite. They are no longer the center of your world. The greatest victory isn't in shouting them down or proving them wrong. The victory is in your freedom. The victory is in no longer playing the game. That's the moment their empire of control crumbles. And that's the moment you step fully into your own life. There's a moment so profound, so piercing, that it shakes the narcissist more than anger ever could. It's when they finally see that your life didn't collapse without them. It expanded. That the very absence they thought would leave you hollow has instead left you stronger, freer, more alive than ever. That's when their regret sinks from surface to soul. The fantasy was always the same. Without me, you'll stumble. Without me, you'll ache. You'll crave my approval like air itself. And for a season, maybe you even believe that lie. That's the poison of dependency, when their distorted world begins to tint your own. But then comes a shift. You step away, and instead of wilting, you rise. You begin to heal, to rebuild, to flourish. And in that rebirth, the narcissist faces a truth they've dreaded all along. They were never your center. This truth doesn't just bruise their ego. It dismantles the entire structure of superiority they built their life on. The narcissist survives on the illusion that everything orbits them, that they're the gravity in every room, every bond, every story. But when you thrive without them, you declare with your very existence that they were never the sun. You are always carrying your own light. The regret that stings isn't about losing you as a person. It's about losing the role they thought was theirs forever, the definer of your worth. They regret the unraveling of the illusion that they were irreplaceable, because now, when they glance back, they don't see a fragile soul who broke under their weight. They see someone who rose from the ashes and became whole, not because of them, but in spite of them. For the narcissist, this is unbearable. To watch the very person they once clipped down take flight is to stare straight at their deepest fear, that they're not extraordinary, not divine, not essential. Just another human being, ordinary and replaceable. That revelation rattles their core. And it's not just regret they feel, it's discomfort that borders on torment. Because your story no longer bends around their presence or absence. You reclaimed the pen. You stepped out of their script. You became the author of your own narrative, the lead in your own story. And that truth cuts through every mask they've worn. True power was never theirs to begin with. Power isn't control over another's heart. It's mastery of your own. The narcissist never had that, so they clung to counterfeit power instead. But when you step into genuine self-mastery, when your worth comes from within, you become untouchable. Their grasp slips. Their tactics fall flat. Their shadow no longer dims your light. Yes, the journey left scars. Yes, the breaking away cost you something. Growth always does. But it's in that very breaking that you discover the indestructible core of who you are. And that is what the narcissist regrets the most. Not just losing you, but losing the ability to shape who you believe yourself to be. So when we speak of the moment the narcissist regrets losing you, it isn't about rage or revenge. It's about the quiet revelation that you are better off without them. That while they played their game, you chose to stop playing. You turned inward. And in doing so, you grew into the fullness of your own strength. They watch from the sidelines now, caught between disbelief and longing, grieving not just your absence, but the loss of the power they once held. That is the true fracture point. Not just regret for what slipped through their fingers, but regret for what they could never hold in the first place. Genuine connection, real respect, true love.